Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Talk Thursday. If you're active on the internet, chances are you've already experienced being up in the cloud. That's not a bad thing. Cloud computing is what the internet cloud means, and it involves real-time connection to data, to anything you want using the internet. It's used in web-based email services, storing photos, video online, and it's also the backbone of corporate operations. But let me not be the one to explain this to you. The guys, the experts at this are here with us today in the studio. With all this information stored in the cloud, how will cloud computing affect individuals and businesses? Not just in the Philippines, but in the Asia Pacific. Joining us to explore this topic are Mayan Lim and Bernie Trudell of the Asia Cloud Computing Association. Lim is the association's executive director, while Trudell has been its chairman for the past 3 years. He's also with Cisco. Good day. Thank you for joining us here.
Maria.
Thank you for having us, Maria.
So, please explain better than I just did, what cloud computing is and why is it important?
Well, cloud computing essentially, as you described it, is it allows people to store their data, not necessarily in a traditional data center or in a traditional computer, but actually in a cloud. So somewhere where they don't necessarily know the location, but because they have high-speed access to it, they can get to it. And so, as you said, it will allow, and it does allow, individuals and businesses to be quite innovative in terms of using IT services and building it as part of their everyday business processes or even as part of their daily lives. For example, we go around with our smartphones today and we depend on the cloud effectively to store our data, to access our applications and so on.
Man, how will this affect the way we live?
It's not how will it affect the way that we live, it's how it has and is affecting the way that we live. A lot of people think that cloud is something scary and something unknowable, or it's the new fad thing. But to be very fair, if you have a Hotmail account, if you have a Gmail account, you're already on the cloud because just this one little service, you're not storing it on your computer. As long as you have internet access, you have access to it. So everybody actually is technically on the cloud, as long as you have some sort of web-based. A lot of people use Dropbox to store their photos, or Dropbox to store that's in the cloud storage facility. So you're already using cloud, to be very honest with you. So that step that Bernie's telling you about, the idea that businesses can take this these efficiencies and the cost efficiencies actually to their businesses, that's not really that far away a reach for people because it's already available for everybody.
Bernie, everyone talks about how technology is disrupting everything right now, and that this is both this time of great opportunity and great stress for normal businesses, the creative destruction, right?
Right.
What are the uses? I mean, how do you see this cloud computing as it moves forward even further from where it is now? How do you see it disrupting? How can people use it to innovate what they're already doing?
Well, if you look, for example, at the internet today, when the internet first came on the scene, what did we use it for? Right? Well, essentially, the internet was an email exchange initially.
Yes.
And then the web came along, and then we had access to information, and we could go look things up. So we published things. But now the internet has really become part of our lives, right? It's a network that's part of our lives. So cloud computing will do the same, right? We are, as you said, in that initial phase where people are saving costs. Maybe they're not buying computers now. They're renting them,
right, or
renting computers.
Well, like Rappler, for example, we're up in the cloud. Our storage is in the cloud, but
right,
it makes it different. I don't have racks that are there.
Right. We don't hear a data center in the background.
Correct.
Because
cheaper
everything
for me.
Exactly. But those, I think, those initial cost savings, while they're good, and companies, organizations are making use of them, I think it's just the tip of the iceberg when we look at the possibilities of having data and access to data sets that might come from governments, that might come from different organizations, and then combining those in a way that allows us to make interesting, let's say, inferences, or potentially we come up with new business ideas because of the access that we have to the data. And then, of course, organizations in general can look at what value are they adding to the economy or to generally society, and then monetize that by making that value accessible to a lot more people through the cloud. So we really are at the the nascent stage of cloud computing.
And this is directly connected to being able to use big data, correct?
Yeah, big data certainly is a strong piece in that. And when I talk about big data, I usually talk about the 5 V's: volume, value, velocity, veracity, and I always forget the 5th one. But a variety. Certainly, in variety is a big piece of that, because traditional data, databases, is very structured.
Right.
But now with big data, we have access to people's conversations, potentially.
Yes.
Right? And hopefully people use that in a positive way, but obviously there's also potential negative sides to that.
NSA?
Right?
No,
Right.
sorry. No.
But, well, NSA is not cloud
Not
computing.
quite, right,
but,
right.
But,
But
yes.
they do access a lot of things that they can find the patterns by putting it up in a cloud to look at it.
Yeah, and I think that's where, if you want the potential of big data, and you combine big data with cloud computing,
Correct.
and you can really see the power that's available to businesses, to individuals, in order to make a difference, a positive difference for society, a positive difference for themselves, in terms of changing their lives, improving their lives.
I mean, the potential can almost sound like science fiction for us, right? Again, can you paint this scenario, something more specific?
Yeah, so let's say something a little more specific for an individual, let's say.
Sure.
An individual has an idea that, it would be, they for example, let's say, like cycling.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to propose to the mayor of Manila or to, let's say, a government department in Manila, that that there should be some cycling routes set up. Mm-hmm. And everybody, are you kidding? We already have enough problems with all of the traffic, but potentially by analyzing the traffic patterns,
right.
They could say, well, you know what? If we could set up as a pilot a cycling route between 2 parts of Manila, using these routes, because they're not they're not heavy traffic.
Correct.
And so there is room to set up a bicycle lane along those
right.
That path. And making that proposal without cloud computing and access to big data would have been next to impossible.
So extrapolating that, I mean, Waze is something like that, right? Waze puts its data, it uses the users who use it to push things up in the cloud that is then accessible to everyone.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of initiatives out there that actually invite people to say, to contribute to a data set.
Yes.
In essence, it's actually just sharing of information, and that's
yes.
that's where we are, right? That's
right.
what the internet does,
right.
the sharing economy. The idea is that you contribute to a central database. Big data is value neutral. You dump all the information. What you can extract from it, you can go all the way from not so good, NSA, to
yes.
really good cycling routes, and
right.
making better policies, making better judgment calls on certain regulations that you want to put in place. I think it enables you to extract the data and come up with something meaningful from that.
And that's completely brand new. It's like inventing something that didn't exist before.
Well, it's crowdsourcing on a global scale.
Right. This is what gets me excited. So, Mayanne, let me ask you, you've been looking at innovation in the Asia Pacific mm-hmm. for a while now. Mm-hmm. I mean, how would you distill it? How do you tell people about it?
Well, the innovation is honestly a very personal concept. What's innovation to you may not be innovation to me.
Yes.
Somebody might say that, okay, cloud computing, that's not innovation at all. We, right from the advent of the internet, you used to store data in a machine, so it's now just that your machine's far further away. Mm. But I think that the scale and the complexity and the speed and the capacity, that all of that actually contributes to innovation, and it's new and it's important. What's important for the Asia Cloud Computing Association is actually observing how governments within Asia Pacific have reacted to these so-called technologically neutral artifacts that have emerged, and that's why we're actually here to launch the Cloud Readiness Index. It's the 2014 edition of it. We look at 10 different parameters, and they run anything from what are the 3 categories? Infrastructure.
Yeah.
And
so they group these 10 categories. We group them into basic infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So things like broadband,
yep.
international connectivity.
Yep.
I'll call it regulatory environments, mostly around information
Yes.
and data. And the third area is really government incentives, the
support.
business environment in order to make cloud computing or, in fact, any innovation successful. So if we look at those three essential elements, and we've pulled out 10, if you want, sub-elements
Yes.
as part of the Cloud Readiness Index, which really is meant to be
a proxy indicator, you know,
Yeah,
for
an
how
indicator.
ready, you know,
Yes.
a country is to jump on this bandwagon, not just for the sake of jumping onto the cloud bandwagon, but rather to reap the benefits of having this network economics. The point really is the country able to take up cloud so that you can improve the citizens and the economic growth of your country? Yeah. So these are our parameters that will help.
Where does the
assess.
Philippines stand? How ready is the Philippines for
I'm very pleased to announce that the Philippines now ranks out of 14 countries as number 10, but you're up two.
Up,
You're
okay.
up 2 ranks. And Bernie just pointed out to me actually that in the first year that we were doing this ranking, the Philippines was the last?
So yeah, so they were in the 14th position.
So
in
we
fact,
were the
the
worst.
Philippines.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's really exciting is that the Philippines have actually moved up 2 places each time we've published this. So, you know, at this rate, and we really see some improvements in a number of areas, that the Philippines certainly in a couple of years could be in that top tier of countries, you know, countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, right, that have really embraced cloud computing.
What makes a country ready for the cloud? I mean, given this, you have 10 criteria here, but in general, what's the mindset that needs to be there?
Well, in a sense, it comes, so from a mindset, from a government perspective, for
Yes.
example, one of the things that we often see in countries that are leading is that they have a cloud-first approach, right? So the government themselves, their own IT, right, they're going to use cloud before, or they're going to look at cloud before they look at any other solution for new applications that they might be bringing on board. Also, that they encourage their industries, maybe BPO industry or financial services industry, to use cloud computing. So we see that probably as a primary one. Obviously things like infrastructure, things like regulatory environments also help.
Yes.
But I think
there will
cloud
come a
first
point-
will be the one.
Yeah, but there will come a point in time where the infrastructural development will pretty much plateau because there's cables are going to be laid, and right now it's a matter of, yes, do you have cables? No, you don't have cables. But once that's reached, we're going to have to look at other environments, like, you know, how pro-business, how pro-innovation a country is, how reactive are you to regulatory changes? You know, are you more reactive or are you more proactive? And as Bernie mentioned, you know, really having a cloud-first policy is one of the characteristics of the leading band of countries.
And it's Japan. Which are the countries leading this now?
So at the top, in the top tier, we see Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, and South Korea.
South Korea is crazy in internet connection.
Yeah. In fact, they
All of
score the
them.
highest in terms of internet broadband quality and broadband connectivity. But you know, as Mayan is saying, there's not a lot of upside for Korea to move in that parameter, right? They're near the top. If you look at the Philippines, there's a fair amount of upside that they have in a number of parameters.
We always
so that's
complain
why,
about our infrastructure. So
well, and I think there's improvements being made.
okay.
You know, and you know, despite the if you want, the infrastructure limitations that exist today in the Philippines, we still have cloud services in the Philippines, right?
Correct.
You know, we have 2 of our members that are from the Philippines, PLDT and Globe. You know, both are offering cloud services, even in this we'll say not ideal infrastructure environment, because they're able to focus their resources on improving those pieces in order to make cloud computing successful.
What are the dangers ahead?
What are the dangers of cloud computing?
Yes.
Well,
Uneven regulation is a really
Correct, because it switches from border to border, and even the lawmakers actually, some of them may not understand the technology.
There are two aspects to it. One of it is internal, the domestic regulation.
Okay.
If you don't have a cloud-first policy, what might happen is that some more innovative ministries or innovative agencies might move forward and they say, we want to put it on cloud. But some other agencies. So let me give you a perfect example, right? The financial services industry.
Yes.
You you might have them saying, no, I think financial services, we need to make sure that we own the data. We're very conservative. We don't want to move it out of this building, let alone out of the country.
Right.
So they're conservative. So their approach is conservative.
So security is a concern. Yeah.
Yes. So certainly security often comes up as, oh, no, we can't put data on the cloud because it's not secure, or we don't know where the data is going to be. So if we don't have control of it, it's a bad thing.
Right.
And I think from a financial services perspective, many countries have actually clamped down in that area for cloud computing.
Yes.
I see the Philippines potentially taking a pragmatic approach to this and saying, really, if we set some guidelines for the industry and put in some essential protection for our citizens and for businesses in general, then we can allow innovation in cloud computing to take place in the financial services industry. And I think ultimately that type of approach is going to win out in the long run. If you're too restrictive and too prescriptive in terms of what you can and can't do, then you're also constraining the innovation that can happen.
So that's on the domestic side. On the international side, the question really is, how easy are you going to let information flow from one country to the other? I mean, we're 2014 now. 2015 is the upcoming ASEAN Economic Community, right?
Correct.
We're supposed to be starting single window trading facilities for everybody. Everybody's supposed to be one big happy family.
Yes.
But what happens when you can't communicate? We've got a great agreement, for example, right now among all ASEAN countries, say for Myanmar, but I'm sure that's coming along. If you're moving from one country to another country, if you're an ASEAN citizen, you don't need a visa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Can we do the same for information? Can we do the same for data? Can we do the same? If I'm from Philippines and I want to go to Singapore for good medical service, can my medical records be easily transferred over? Or am I going to hit some kind of rule that says, no, the medical information can't leave this hospital, can't leave this country, even though I legitimately want to go somewhere in Singapore, somewhere else in ASEAN to get treated.
So you still have those same push and pulls. It's the ease and convenience versus concerns about security and crime, for example.
Yes, right. And I think that's if you want the negative side of cloud computing and big data is crime and illegal surveillance and governments getting a little heavy-handed with various pieces, but ultimately, and I think this is the opportunity that the AEC has, is if we could build a framework, and we called for this framework in our last study, in our previous study called Data Sovereignty for cloud computing. If we could build this framework, then we have a chance to make ASEAN really a leader in the world.
Can jump ahead.
Right. Jump ahead by making cloud computing really pan-ASEAN, right, and getting the strengths of each of the different countries in ASEAN to come together and build something very strong that either other countries on their own or other multinational agreements can't do because of, let's say, the historical infighting that they've done.
Yes. Given what you know now about each of the countries, I mean, the Asian Cloud Computing Association's Index, you'll be announcing it this week. Is
That's
that
correct? Yeah.
So it'll be available. You can take a look at where your country is. What's stopping us?
What's stopping us
from doing from the AEC, from really making that data available? I guess aside from each country's infrastructure, which you've broken down, I guess, what is the mind shift that needs to happen for not just government, but for citizens?
Understanding that technology is not an individual sector. Understanding that technology touches all our lives right now, and if you're going to approach it from a siloed angle, we're not going to be able to move anywhere. You can't look at it from just one perspective. You've got to look at the entire industry. You've got to look at entire economies and say, where do we want to move there, and where you want to go has to be buttressed by a lot of good policy that supports people, that supports innovation, that supports businesses.
How do you jumpstart this when individuals, so the people, we ourselves are struggling to deal with the implications of the new technology,
Everybody
right?
is.
And then companies, the companies that succeed have their own processes, which are very different from, well, the multinationals already have cloud to some degree, but it's different and you have to adapt it. So the companies and governments struggle with innovation in that sense. How can you nudge this along, aside from education, but how can you nudge this process along?
Well, I think starting, so having the education and the awareness within our lawmakers, within our policymakers
Yes.
and our regulators, I think that, as Mei-Ann said, is an essential first step.
Yes.
But then taking that, if you want knowledge, or taking that platform to actually do some pilot projects with them and show them what is possible, and really leveraging the innovation that's already taking place in multinationals, within the country, right?
Fantastic. Let me ask you for your last thoughts. Let's start. Bernie, your last thoughts. This is the Cloud Readiness Index of 2014. It's moving out this week.
Well, at Asia Cloud Computing Association, we're really excited about bringing this out. This is our third index, and especially launching it here in the Philippines because the Philippines has shown this consistent growth. And so hopefully in 2 years' time, we'll be here to see the Philippines in the top tier of the 14 countries that we measure.
So we can only hope. Mei-Ann.
I think the time to act is really now. The time to discuss is now. We are not here to, the ACCA, we're not here to dictate. We're not here to tell you how to run each individual country's strategies, because every country is different. Look at Asia. We can't even agree on a single language. We believe that if you want to talk to people, if you want to gather information that will help you make better policies for your people, that will help you develop your economy, we're ready to help.
And the last question again, we started with innovation, let me end with that. How can we better nudge people? There's so much new technology. This is on the tech back end, a little bit of an enabler for all of the other things, but to create businesses that are innovative, to use it in innovative ways. What's your advice?
Well, a quick one would be the BPO industry, right?
Yep.
The BPO industry is a significant portion of the Philippines' GDP. Why not marry cloud computing with the BPO industry and now start to offer cloud computing, let's say, back-end services to the rest of the world, or let's say to ASEAN to start with, and see that,
Yes.
and that'll just, in my opinion, will cause an explosion,
Yes.
positive explosion in terms of the BPO industry and moving the Philippines to the next level.
And the hardest thing with that is for each of the BPO group companies to not want to compete with each other, sharing this kind of data.
Yeah, well,
That's
certainly having that cooperation and
Yes.
seeing the bigger picture of the industry is will certainly go a long way to get this to reality.
Fascinating. Mei-Ann.
And one added dimension to that is really supporting small and medium businesses. Allow people to create their own businesses, explore the ideas. If you support this, place your bets
Yes.
on these small and medium enterprises, because if you place your bets on small and medium enterprises, you're essentially saying, I'm placing my bet on my people.
And in APAC, it's 94 to 96%.
I think it's higher. I think it's like 99%, honestly speaking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Good luck this week with the announcement. We've been speaking with Mei-Ann Lim, the Executive Director of the Asia Cloud Computing Association, and Bernie Trudell, the group's chairman of the development and on the possibilities of cloud computing, innovation. Check out your country on the index. It's coming out this week. I'm Maria Ressa. Thank you for joining us.